how I scaled my business from 800K to 8 million. How could you deliver a 5-star service when you're starting to get 10 times the profit and revenue in that business as well? Then it makes a lot of sense too. Understand the key metrics. If you're wondering why your business isn't hitting that 1 million mark yet, then welcome to the A Players podcast, the place where we help you become leaders in your industry and significantly increase your income in doing so as well. So today we're going to talk about my journey from how I took a business from 800,000 to 8 million. And this has come for a request through YouTube of, Lewis, can we understand more about your journey and what you've done? So I invest in businesses now. I own multiple businesses. And the example I'll give you today is from one of those businesses that I took from 800K to 8 million. And by the way, I don't do that on my own. I do it through finding the right people, through finding A players, which is why this podcast is created. Because ultimately, we need to find A players in all the businesses to help us scale. And you should be doing that too as you start to scale your business. Or if you don't own a business, your management team. Yeah, you got to think about leverage here. How do you start to utilize people to get to your goal faster? Yeah, to make a bigger impact. But you don't just do it alone. That's why it's called the A Players podcast. There's an S on the end. A Players. You need to find A players around you too. So let's get stuck in. Okay. So if you're listening on Spotify and you're listening on iTunes or whatever it is that you may be listening to on right now, then there is a visual to go with this too. Go over to the YouTube channel and click subscribe on there, and you'll see 2 podcast episodes going out a week and the visuals to go with it too. So I'm going to share the visual on my screen now. If you're not and you are driving, etc., no problem. Just go and check this out on YouTube later. So how I scaled my business from 800K to 8 million. These are my show notes I'm showing up on screen now, but you can also copy this as a bit of a cheat sheet for how you can start to do it as well. Now, look, when I'm working with businesses and scale them up in the past, so I used to be a business coach and now I'm an investor in businesses as well. So I put my money where my mouth is and I actually go and do it. Why not? I need to invest the money somewhere. My thing is investing in businesses. Some people like to invest in stock markets. Some people like to invest in property. Great. You go do that. For me, get more knowledgeable about how you help more businesses scale. And then you can start to invest in those instead. And look, when you're starting to get 10 times the profit and revenue in that business as well, then it makes a lot of sense too. So let's get cracking. If you own a business or if you are working in a business right now, it doesn't matter, right? If that business grows, then the cash flow starts to happen in that firm and it can pay you more. So start to think about it. Don't think about scarcity mindset. Start to think about how everyone around you grows, and that's how you grow and you make more money too, okay? Let's look at the screen. What we've got is start with the end in mind. What is the problem that exists now and how I resonate with problems to understand my market? See, that was the first thing that I really need to get together with is what sort of issues are there in the market? What are people struggling with? What is my community actually facing right now? See, a lot of people build a product and then try to sell it. It's the wrong way around. You don't build a product and then sell it. You get the audience first. You start to figure out, okay, these are my people. These are the people that are listening, right? These are the people that I understand that have a challenge. And with this one business that I'm talking about today, the issue is that there was a monopoly in the one sort of area. And we said, look, this isn't fair anymore. These people are calling the shots here. These people are calling the shots. They're giving long lead times. They are raising the prices through the roof. And it wasn't fair for the actual people that needed some better assistance, a better process. What was tending to happen is that the people at the time were creating old products. So it's a manufacturing business that I'm talking about here. And the people at the time were making old products and not innovating. Even though the prices were quite high, they weren't delivering anything for that innovation. Yeah. So what? It's the same thing that's been around for the last 30 years, and we just got to pay it. And for us, it's like, well, hold on a minute. This is an industry. I won't say too much about the business, but this is an industry where people deserve better. Yeah, they deserve to have their customers also having the best stuff out there. So define the niche, right? Define the problem within a niche. Yeah. What is the thing that you're finding right now in your audience? Is there something that you're involved in? For instance, it could be that you're seeing a lot of people in your industry. You could be in the IT industry, and in the IT industry, there's a specific problem that is not getting addressed, and no one's talking about it. Yeah. So figure out how you help people, how you make their lives a whole lot better. So number 2 is develop a product or service that fits a niche. Okay. So now there's a problem. You got to think about how do you start to solve that problem. You see, if you're the jack of all trades and you try and solve everything, I mean, I used to work with a few companies in Australia, and in Australia, there's this saying of it's the one-stop shop. It's bullshit, right? You're selling everything to the general everything to what's your niche? If you do the one-stop shop, then you are the jack of all trades, master of none. Okay. Now I can understand it if you're bringing in added extras to help people and service them, but first of all, you better have a very good fucking business. And we're talking here from going 800K to 8 million. So I will do another video on how we went from 8,000 to 800K. Yeah. 8K to 800K. That'd be a great video for people that are starting out. But this is for the people that are going from 800. So I presume that you're already working in a bigger business or already have a bigger business. Okay. So what we need to start figuring out is the things that got me from 800 to 8 million is how do we start to define that now? Stop being the jack of all trades. Start thinking about who our market is and how do we niche to solve a bigger challenge that nobody's talking about. Okay. So number 3, build a system that services the client with a 5-star customer journey. Now, people think that, okay, they can just have the product and all of a sudden, now it's niched, it's going to really work out. Well, something I learned along my journey that took me between 800 to about 2 million to 3 million was that you've got to have the right system around it as well. And that system isn't just what you deliver. And what I mean by deliver is what goes out to the customer, whether it be a product or whether it be a service that you're offering. You may be a lawyer, you might be an accountant, you might be a consultant. The thing that you give out is your deliver. Okay. That's the thing that you're giving away. Now, what I did in my firm was to go, right, okay, if I want to get more customers, bringing in revenue, and we're not going to go and discount on prices. Okay. So a lot of businesses think that I'll just keep getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until, it's a race to the bottom, really. Whoever the cheapest wins. Well, great. If you want fucking customers that want to buy cheap, then great. Here's what happens when you work with cheap customers. They will always try to beat you down. 2, they will always want to have one over on you, right? And 3, even when you do it cheaper, they will want more and more and more and more. Okay. And what tends to happen then is your profit margins disappear, and then you can't invest in A players. You can't invest in the right people around you, the right learning, the right teaching. You can't invest in the right assets, the right tools, the right buildings, the right equipment. So you can't service your customers. So I don't work with, when I'm purchasing or making a purchasing decision, I never go with the cheapest price. Why? Because I know that the resources that they get then isn't going to be able to come back to me, right? So the better I am, for example, the better I can service people, right? So if I've got more money in that margin, then I can invest it more to look after my customers more. Makes sense? If you're racing to the bottom all the time with your price, then what tends to happen is that you need to claw back that profit somewhere because there's overheads to pay and wages to pay. Yeah. So the way that happens is that the person who has discounted will tend to claw back the money on either the second job or the third job, but it's a bit like this. Think about it. If you go and buy a car, right, and you got the same car, different dealers, but the one does it cheaper, that one who does it cheaper probably going to sell you a higher rate of interest or a service. Okay, so there's vehicle manufacturers out there that do things cheaper, but they offer a 7-year warranty, but you have to have the warranty through them for 7 years. So what that's doing is that they're making you come back for the service. So they're clawing the money back by reducing the cost, but getting it back elsewhere. Now, if you race to the bottom when it comes to competing on price, the problem is that you will always have to try and claw that money back because there's wages to pay and overheads to pay. And you've got to be really careful there who you're dealing with. So this is why having that 5-star service isn't just about making it cheaper. It's about delivering on it. Okay. So how could you deliver a 5-star service? Get it on time. Make sure there's no problems. Make sure the person is looked after. Make sure that that person, you're actually understanding their needs, not just, hey, this is what they think they want. You listen to them and go, actually, you know what? There could be a better product. And I have no problem ever of saying, hey, look, one of our competitors is actually better going to service you because that customer, that competitor is better for that customer. So this is about understanding a 5-star service. How do you do it? Well, you're not a mind reader. So you're going to need to start surveying your people as well. Survey doesn't mean send out a big survey or an email or anything like that. It could be, but you got to have the right system that makes sure you're taking care of your 5-star service. Yeah. Have you got a right CRM that handles it? Have you got the right IT that handles it? Have you got the right people trained, the right A players that are meant for customer service, not just some miserable bastard that thinks that they know what they're doing all the time? You've got to hire for this sort of service. Look, you can take that on board or not, but here's why, a business went from 800K to 8 million is because you start to get this stuff right. Yeah. And if you're wondering why your business isn't hitting that 1 million mark yet, then there could be some ideas in this that you really need to take hold of and run with. Okay. So let's move on. What else gets us to 8 million from my journey? Well, a big learning along the way as well is, okay, now you've got the build a 5-star service, understand the key metrics. Like I said, racing to the bottom, cuts the margin, cuts anything else that you can start to use as a resource to service that customer. So I never go with the cheapest price. I'd rather go and spend a little bit more and know that it's going to be right. There's a guarantee behind it. There's the guarantee and peace of mind. So there's insurance behind it as well, assurance behind it as well. So making sure that you understand these metrics is important. Now, when you're growing an 800K to 8 million pound business, it's quite easy to start to change these metrics in a way that can start to damage your firm. Yeah. Because if you can't invest the profits in your business, you can't scale. Take that on board. If you don't invest the profits in your business, you will not scale. Yeah. There's so many business owners that I know and managers and entrepreneurs, whatever you want to fucking call them, that see the profits, run with it and spend it. Right. Never. Business is about investing. Yeah. People say, oh, I'm going to go into business. No, you're going into investing. You're just investing in business differently. Now you can invest in other people's businesses, but investing in your own business is key, right? Or you will not scale. If you use those profits to just piss up the wall, then see you later. You will soon get caught out. Your customers will find out about it as well. And it's not ethically right. Yeah. So reinvest those profits to help more people. And that is how you scale your business from 800K to 8 million. Now, you've got to understand the key metrics of that business, as I said in point 4. And those key metrics can be a number of things. So key metrics are, you got to understand your balance sheet. Yeah. You need to understand your profit and loss sheet. Most business owners will look at it, or most managers will look at it and go, hey, that's an accountant's job. No, you're a fucking A player, right? If you want to be an A player and make a lot of money, you need to understand where money comes from in that business. So understand the P&L. Yeah. Understand the revenue. What causes the revenue? What leading indicators cause that revenue? So if you just look at a P&L, you will only see the figures that has played out for that last month or the last quarter or last year. What you want to know is what happened to cause those figures. See, an accountant will look in the past, but as an A player that's talking about making big money, you need to be thinking about what causes those things to then make an impact on the revenue. Yeah. All that revenue will then take the cost of sales, the cost of sale is what you need to spend to actually produce that good. And then there's the overheads as well, which is your wages and all the property and, all the bills that need to go out. So that what you're left with at the end is your net profit. Okay. That net profit is then used to reinvest into the firm to either get you what you want as well. So, yep, look, you're not being an A player to not do this for any reason. If you are going to make more money, there needs to be more net profit in that business. And there's more net profit that's in that business. Again, the more they can reinvest to scale that business because they're going to help more customers. That reinvestment could be in more marketing. It could be in better sales training. It could be in operational stuff. It could be in more product. It could be in research and development. It all costs money, right? So again, you've got to have that right balance here to make sure it works. Thank you for listening to the podcast so far. A quick reminder that the A Players podcast and community remains free. The reason we do this podcast is because I believe that a great question to ask is, what advice would you give your younger self? For me, I wish I had a guide that showed me the exact steps to reach 100k a year in any job, and how much my life would be accelerated if I'd cut through that noise and just focused on those steps. We do not run ads or endorse sponsors because it is our mission to give back and share with you, the listener, knowledge gained from working with highly successful individuals and extensive research in management science, so that everyone has access to tools that can accelerate their income and give them the opportunity to step into wealth. In line with allowing us to achieve that mission, we ask that you think about, how did you end up on this podcast today? Maybe it was through finding it on YouTube or Spotify or word of mouth. So please help feed forward by subscribing to the podcast, and also share this podcast with another leader like you that you feel this podcast could really help out in helping them increase their personal income too. Let's get back to the show. Understanding your figures, understanding your numbers is key. Not just what's on what the accountant says, but start to measure what makes an impact. So I was talking to one of my businesses. We say, hey, look, what causes more revenue to happen? Oh, well, more sales. Well, of course. What causes more sales? Well, when we have great conversations with more people and understand what they're doing, then we make more sales. Oh, okay. So the actual lever you pull is picking up the phone and talking to more people, is sending more emails. Out of picking up the phone and sending more emails, which one has the biggest impact? Picking up the phone. So why are you sending fucking emails then? You see what I mean? Understand your numbers, understand what works. Okay. There's plenty more I can go into this about. And if you do, any of this does resonate with you, then just drop a message in the comments on YouTube, drop it a like, and say, hey, look, can you talk more on this topic, because we need some more help on it. Yeah. So what are we looking at next then? So number 5 is compartmentalize the departments of that business. As you start to scale, when the business is under $1 million, it may feel as though, and this may even be even less than 100k, that a lot of people are doing the same thing. Yeah, that everyone's jumping in, and there's this sort of culture of, we've all got to be in, and we've all got to put hard work in and hustle. And if someone needs help, you've got to crack on with it and go and jump on board and help them as well. It's bullshit, right? If you're scaling from 800k to 8 million, one of the big lessons that I had on the way is that if I see a department that needs more help, it's not to put my overalls on and go and help it. It's then to work with that management team, work with that department, and say, how can I invest more resource into this place to help scale it? Because if I start to put my hours into it, what tends to happen is I start to micromanage it, which then disempowers the managers and the leaders in that department and the A players. So the A players become B players. You see, the idea is that you coach your A players or your B players to your A players. Yeah. And if they're C players, they become B players or A players. And if they're D players, they don't belong in your business. Okay. So by compartmentalizing the right departments in that business, you're saying, look, this is your role, this is your role, this is your role. And even though that one might be struggling a little bit, it's about investing and coaching. Yeah. It's not about, let's just all jump in there, because if you do, the other department starts to struggle. Okay. So really compartmentalizing that business, understanding what each area does, is going to be key to getting you towards the next, whatever it may be, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million. Okay. So this goes down to number 6 then. Build the right seats for the right people on the bus. Have the aces in their places. Now, the reason this is called A Players is all about having the right people in the right seats. First of all, imagine this. There's a book out there called Good to Great. If you haven't read it yet, you should read it, by Jim Collins. He talks about your career, your business that you are in is like having a bus. Yeah. The CEO is driving it, and you've all got seats on that bus that you must stay in, the compartmentalizing, right? Now, those seats, as we mentioned in the last one, the different departments, is where you must sit. If you're running around the bus all the time in different seats, then it's not going to work as well. Yeah. It's going to be in balance. Now, if you, though those places are ready, those seats are built, you've got to have the A players in the seats. So what this means is that you need to hire them. Okay. Not just hire them, but how do you train them? How do you develop them? Because that one person, if you've got 5 or 10 different departments in your business, the one department being slower than the other departments will cause a constraint. And we'll talk about constraints in a while as well. Okay, so now you've built the right seats for the right people on the bus. You got to figure out where your time is best well spent next. So this is the theory of constraints then. Work on the constraint. Where is your time best well spent? Now, the idea of having these aces in the places, these A players and B players in your business, is to give you more time. Yeah. It's all about time. And they say time is money. Okay, I guess so. Time is leverage, right? Leverage is money. Okay. So anything that takes your time up, if you're sitting in a seat doing something and you're the CEO or you're the manager or you're the A player, if you're the A player that's very good at sales and you're getting mixed up with operational stuff, then you're not doing the A player stuff that you're meant to. So if you're not sitting in the A player seat in sales, who's making sales? Right? And this is the problem a lot of businesses will have. A lot of firms, in fact, will stop at around 2 to 3 million because they have like a seesaw effect. They have a seesaw where they'll chase the work and then they'll do the work. So what needs to happen instead is that everyone needs to make sure that they are being the A player in their department. Now, your job as the person who's managing these people is to make sure that you're focusing on the next area that needs development. So again, if you've got 10 different departments or 10 different areas within your department, there will be a constraint. Now, what a theory of constraints is that, I mean, it comes from a great book called The Goal, yeah, from Elijah Goldratt. If you go and listen to or read his content, then what he'll say is that a bit like a dam and a river, okay? The dam will keep building up water behind it. Water, water, water. When you relieve that dam, the water will then flow to a different area. But if there's too much water flow to that other area, you'll flood it and you'll damage that constraint next. So the idea is that they make sure that everything is balanced, okay? So it's all growing together, not flooding the one area with a lot of work or a lot of whatever it may be, yeah? And then the other one could start to drain. So we need to make sure there's more water coming to it. What this looks like in a business, for example, is if the sales team don't have enough sales to make and you need more sales, then they're going to want to need more leads. So the question is, have you hired your salesperson? Is there win-win agreement, what they have to do, just to make sales, or is it to find leads? Because if they're not, then they're always pointing fingers at the marketing team. And the marketing team could be turning around and going, hey, look, that's not our challenge. The real challenge here is that everyone needs to be getting leads. So who takes ownership of it? Yeah. The marketing team can provide the content for the sales team to provide lead generation. Okay. But if the sales team is going, oh, that's a marketing team's job, they should be providing leads, there's a problem. So I'll question the structure within your firm to how you actually solve the main problem, which is lead generation. Yeah. It's not marketing, it's not sales, it's lead generation and conversion. You should be working together on that because the constraint can soon shift depending on where it is. If there's no leads to actually sell to, then guess what? Yeah, you're not going to be able to sell. So everyone needs to get behind that lead generation resource, not behind, hey, look, I'm in the sales seat here. You actually know you're in the lead generation seat and the conversion seat. Now, the conversion seat then is if there's a lot of leads coming in, but they're not converting, you've got a conversion problem. So the constraint is then within conversion. Okay. I can go into a lot more detail on this, ladies and gents, but again, this is not the point of this podcast. But can you see how doing things like this, always thinking about, well, there's my next constraint. It can move to operations. How do I get stuff out the door? Well, that's a whole 100-step process, maybe, of all different things that need to happen to make sure you can get stuff out the door faster when the sales is there. There's always a constraint in the business. Work on that constraint, your business will scale. Okay. So moving on to the final ones then. What else has helped me get from 800K to 8 million is attract the A players. Attract and hire A players to take care of those seats. Look, when you're at a place that within your firm, yeah, whether you are a manager, an employee, or a CEO, within that firm, there will always be a time where the system is starting to work. It is always getting more effective. The constraint is always being worked on. But alongside that, parallel to it, you must be finding great people. When should you be hiring between 800K to 8 million? All the time. You should be hiring all the time because it's a little bit like fishing, right? You will not catch any fish if you don't have a rod in the pool. Yeah. If you don't have the line and the bait in the pool, you will not catch any fish. Okay. Now, when those fish come, it might be a bad day, it might be a great day. Yeah. Some people say, oh, you can never find people. And then other people I speak to say, fuck me. There was like 4 or 5 people all come at once. Oh, that's just the way it happens. No, no. You've just got to make sure that you're fishing all the time. Even if there's a fish comes along and you haven't got the position for it, if that person is good enough, you will find the position for it because players pay for themselves. And if you're a scaling business that's going from 10 to 100 million, guess what? You need to be finding these people all the time. So there's a lot of stuff on social media telling you to hustle more, do this. This is how you scale a business. That is great. But all these people, I'll tell you something now, they are working time for money. Okay. Unless they've got a leveraged training course or something like that, even then, they will be working time for money. But what starts to happen is then they'll hire people to sell their course for them. You see it on Instagram now. You've got ManyChat AI that's selling for them. So they're actually using an AI resource instead. But behind that, they will have administrators, they will have salespeople, they'll have marketers, they'll have a team of marketing people all working on different platforms. People. Okay. So whether you think AI is going to take over the world or not, it will only help people. And the people that can use it are the ones that are going to get ahead. So finally, number 9, scale up. Okay. So invest in the right coaches and mentors that help solve the right challenge and not be afraid to change what is not working. So I love my journey. I mean, I've told you in the 8 Players podcast in previous episodes already, is that I've probably got around about 6 or 7 coaches at any one time, not just coaches, mentors. That could be somebody in finance. So I've got a financial coach, I've got a sales coach, I've got a marketing coach, branding coach. What else have I got? There's obviously the accountant. There's the tax director in the accountant is somebody you're always going to really know. As I mentioned before, if there's one thing in life that is certain, it is death and taxes. So always make sure you got somebody who's very good with tax as well. I've got financial advisors. There's lots of people that I have around that boardroom table. Yeah. Sales director, operational managers. They are all people that I have around there as advisors. Okay. This way of scaling from 8 million. Look, we're going to scale even further and further and further. And that's just one firm. Yeah. I've got a portfolio of lots of firms, and it's the same philosophy in each one. Different businesses are ready for different things at the right time. Different people within those people, UA players, need certain things at the right time. Listening to podcasts that are telling you about somebody who's made their first billion, or somebody who was telling you about yoga, or somebody who's telling you about these diets, or somebody who's telling you about, what was it the other day? Somebody about, from the comedian, I think it was like, some comedian or something like that, from a totally different industry. Focus on the stuff that you're doing. Get the content around you that of the people that are doing just the steps ahead of where you're going. Yeah. Don't listen to things about going 100 million if you're not at your million yet. Don't listen to things about going 10 million if you're not at your million yet. Right? You got to make sure you're doing the right stuff at the right time. Okay. If you don't listen to people that are doing a billion, right? Because they're talking about billion stuff. Billion stuff isn't going to work. Think about where you're at right now. If you're going from a business that's around about 500,000 to that 10 million goal, then this is the podcast that you need to watch, right? Because that's the stuff that's happened and it's worked in 2024, not 20 years ago, not 30 years ago. And not talking about something that has been some overnight boom. I'm talking about real people here that are doing the right stuff, UA players that are hanging in there and making sure that you absolutely smash your week by listening to the right content. So if any of this has resonated today, lock in your biggest takeaways from it, okay? Go over this podcast, take my notes, use my cheat sheet. There's the things. I mean, if I wanted to, that was 8 notes on there. I could have done 80, right? I've done that over a long time and I've scaled multiple businesses. So use that if you can, right? Lock it in, but just make sure that you do something with it, okay? Watch it on YouTube if you want the notes and you want the visual for it, but just make sure that you take some steps from this that will move you that step further forward. And like I say, for people that aren't at 800K yet, I will do a smaller one for you guys that are doing 8,000 to 800K to show you some of the lessons I had in that journey as well. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe and to share with others as well. You never know who you might just help on their journey. Be great.